when I think of what I want to call you for this story, fair to say, talk to us just a little bit about your experience with COVID and your recovery, if you don't mind.
Um, my sister, who I live with, her and her husband, out on the farm, we check our thermometers, or what do you call it, temperatures every day. And we checked them Monday morning, and temperatures were fine, normal. So I told Connie I'd go do some grocery shopping. I was gone about a half hour. And when I came back, we only live 5 minutes from the grocery store. I started feeling funny, and by the time I got home, I just felt terrible. And I walked in and told Connie, I said, I don't feel good. I said, maybe you should take my temperature again. And she did, and it was 101.8. And I said, you better call the ambulance and get me over to the hospital, because I didn't want her to take me if it was something like this, you know, because she's only 11 months and 3 weeks younger than me. So we're the same age for a week, and her husband's. Anyway, they took me into the hospital, and emergency room took me in, gave me a room, and then they said they were going to keep me overnight, and this was still 10 o'clock, 10 or 11 in the morning. Another unit in the hospital where I had my own room, and 7 o'clock that night they came in and told me I tested positive for the virus, and so they were going to keep me, and they hooked me up to a ventilator and put breathing tubes in me, and I just figured that was a death sentence, because, you know, I just didn't have much luck for guys that have had heart issues, which I've had 6 angioplasties and double bypass and a heart attack and stents. I'm full of stents, and diabetes and high blood pressure. I had them all. I thought, oh boy, here I come, Mom. My mother's up there already. So it was getting worse and worse every day. The third day, I was feeling like I was just about going to die, and the nurse came in and said, would you like me to pray with you? And I shook my head because I couldn't talk with all that crap in my mouth. And she said a little prayer to the Virgin Mary that she read off a card, and I grew up in the Mac Heart of Mary grade school for 7 years and seminary for a year, and I thought I knew every Mary prayers, but I had never heard that one. It was really beautiful. But by the time she got done, I was staring eye to eye to the Virgin Mary, and she says, don't worry, John, you're going to be all right. So woke up the next day, and I took myself off that ventilator and pulled out my breathing tubes, and then proceeded to get bawled out by the nurse, and they decided they'd put me on regular oxygen, so they did, and 3 days later they took me out of intensive care. That was a scary place, only because, you know, all night long. She said, it's so good to hear your voice. She says, I was sure you were a goner. She says, you got everything going against you to live out of this. How you ever did it, I'll never know. And I says, well, a lot of people praying for me, and my sister had sent out hundreds of requests for prayers on Facebook, and my Facebook and her Facebook, and being from a big family, I'm oldest of 12, they were all sending out prayer requests, and the prayers helped. They must have, because I shouldn't be here, but I am, and I'm glad to be here. So
Marvelous story. Talk to me and keep talking to the camera instead of me. Talk to the camera. You know, I hate to ask a lady this question. Don't mind asking a gentleman as much. Can I get your age if you don't mind?
70.
So along with that whole list of, complicated concerns that you already had, you had your age going against you. And was there ever a moment, I think it was like close to 2 weeks, I think you said that you were in the hospital.
2 full weeks, yeah.
Was there ever a moment that you just almost gave up?
Yeah, I was giving up when that nurse came in.
Talk to the camera and tell us a little bit about how you went through some despair, right? Very much so.
Well, not really. I mean, I just didn't feel good, and I figured that was part of dying.
Absolutely.
And when she came in and asked if she could pray with me, I gave her the okay, and was so glad that she did that. And a couple of the nurses that I had after that knew who she was. I would give anything to meet her again or get a copy of that card she prayed off. Lady, not the nurse, the virgin, but it just seemed special. How would I get to talk to her like that? I mean, I couldn't say anything because I had my mouth full of garbage, but she knew what to say to me, and I don't even remember the nurse leaving the room, but when she did, I don't know. But that was special to me, and that was my turnaround.
Do you remember, anything that she exactly said to you that really resonated, that you could share with us? Did she say, hold on? Was there anything that I'm here with you? Or do you just remember feeling calm from her? I'm curious.
Just looking in her eyes, I felt calm, but then I heard her say, "You'll be fine." So I figured, well, that means I'm either going to heaven or I'm staying on earth. So, I don't know. That was about the end of it. It lasted so long, and I did get to see my son, who passed away the day before Thanksgiving, and I told my other son that, and he told his mother, and Dad, we shouldn't have told Mom because she's mad because she didn't get to see him. And I couldn't talk to Michael, but he was there. I knew he was watching over me.
Talk to me a little bit about your recovery. You look back in great health. You seem healthy. You seem happy, and you seem willing to give of yourself now, right? You're helping with this particular effort with the plasma.
Yeah.
Did you recently give the plasma? Are you going soon?
Tomorrow will be the third time. I do it every 28 days, and I'm in 3 studies at the university now. I had my second meeting yesterday. Every month I'll go to a meeting for I think 3 or 4 months. They got 3 different studies going, and they take blood from me every time I go, and so a lot easier than giving plasma. Plasma is not hard. I can't imagine anybody not doing it if they can. But they said that the plasma, 1 bag of plasma will save a bunch of people. And there's just not anybody dying over there anymore. And that's a good thing, because they seem to have it under control. If somebody gets sick with it, they know what to do. And there's enough people now. When I gave plasma the first time, they only had 4 donors that had this, that could do it. And every time it gets a bigger and bigger list of people that have survived and we're willing to do that. And so
it's just.
But I'm playing golf every week, sometimes twice a week, and I was a little angry. I shouldn't say this, but I was ready to go golfing, and the governor says, well, we'll open up the golf courses, but then they weren't going to let you take carts, and I can't walk golf because anyway. And so I figured, oh, that son of a gun. But then he came through and said, okay, you can take carts. So I give him a good vibe for that one.
I'm curious to know, John, in all this. So you're back to your favorite pastimes and your hobbies. Are you back to church at all? I know in some capacity. I don't know if you're coming on Sundays or if you're just kind of laying low and doing the virtual
Well, I've
experience.
come to the chapel here a number of times since I've been out. I just got back day before yesterday from Florida. I was there 3 weeks in Naples. My son works out of Naples, and so he came home to be with me while I was in the hospital and afterwards, and then I went back to Florida with him. And they just opened up the churches down there, so we went to the churches on Sunday down there 3 weeks in a row. They weren't open here yet, so but I'm planning to go this week. Planning to go tomorrow because I think tomorrow's our namesake, St. Bernard's. Isn't that tomorrow?
August.
Oh, it's not till August?
Mm-hmm.
Oh gosh, what did I read in the bulletin?
Yeah,
the other-
something else. There is a feast day tomorrow. I don't remember what it is though.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
I told Connie we're going to church tomorrow.
Back at church, I love it. I love it, and I think the I always look to see if there's a bigger message in a story, and I think this message is you have to ground yourself in your faith during this difficult time, as a Catholic to make it through, or any religion, I'm sure that it's really important to find faith and to cling to that because what you experienced with your fevers and the fears and everything, just, I don't know how you could do it without your faith.
It helps.
Absolutely. What do you think, knowing that, Jan's right here, and we're going to hear her story in a moment, what do you think about having, and knowing, that this is touching so many people, even people in the congregation that prior to this you didn't even know, that it's not, it's such a sneaky, evil little virus that it can just take anyone down.
Well, I tell you one thing. My doctor, she scheduled me to have a blood exam 2 days after I got out. And she said, go to 1 South Park Street, because that's where they were doing the blood tests. And which there's a lot of doctors in there too, but she says, go in the front door instead of the one you usually go in if you go down there at all, because there'll be 3 nurses waiting there for you. And there they were when I came in on Friday. And they said, well, we got to ask you some questions first. And then they were all garbed up in the same kind of garb like moon men, like the gals that worked on me in the hospital. And they says, well, have you had a fever today? I said, no. Have you been coughing? No. It says, have you been around anybody that's had the what do you call it? Cobra, whatever. I never know what to call it. But I says, well, yeah. And they all backed up a step, and then they says, well, who? I says, me. And then they backed up 2 more steps, and they said, well, what are you doing here? I says, well, I'm out of the hospital now. I had it, and they said I'm okay to come out, and my doctor sent me here for a blood test. Oh. And so we haven't met anybody that survived it yet. You're the first one. And, they were a little scared of me.
And John, you're the last thing that's scary, right? So, but yeah, you're back to. I'm just glad that you're back to normal, and you've got a lot of new faith. And have you learned anything through this experience that
Well,
would be important to share with viewers?
I mean, I've always had a good faith, so that wasn't new. But what is new is my children have sort of had a good faith, but it's in the background, and now I think their faith has come out more to the foreground.
Yeah, what did your family think when you told them you saw the Virgin Mary?
They do the same thing I do every time I talk about it, is I cry and they cry. They can't help it.
I think we're all gonna cry. Sorry, I didn't mean to make you cry. But it's just one of those things, what does your heart tell you about, being so blessed and being so fortunate to have such an experience like this?
Well, I don't know. It just says, keep being a good guy. He's got you here for some reason. You know, I try to do what I can to help people, and you know, I just, you know, I feel lucky, you know, that I'm here, but I don't feel I was overly lucky. I guess I feel like he really wants me to do something. So I just keep looking and keep trying.
Good answers. I think I probably.
But I just got really ill, and I knew I had to go into the emergency room or something. So my daughter made an appointment for me, because you had to make appointments then, and I had to go into a tent. Did you have to do that? Anyway, I had to go into a tent, and I was throwing up and just everything. I was just really, really sick. And they wanted me to have a mask on, and I'm thinking, you know, how can I keep from throwing up in this mask? Anyway, they didn't keep me in there very long, but they tested me and for the virus, and they took me pretty straight up to the room. I think I was on the either 6th or 7th floor. Had a really nice view, and from the time they wheeled me up in the wheelchair, until I got to the room, I never saw another person other than a doctor or nurse, which is different for me because I'm really around people a lot. So it was kind of lonesome, but I had a phone in the room, and for the first probably 3 days, I wasn't really feeling like talking anyway. I had a beautiful view. The room was really nice. The doctors and nurses were great. The only thing I really, really didn't like was my bed. It was so skinny and uncomfortable, and the mattress was about an inch thick. It was just not comfortable. But I also had this vinyl couch in the room that was cold and really uncomfortable. So every now and then I would go over and lay on that couch for a while, and then when I come back to my bed, it would feel good for a while. So I was kind of going back and forth.
You were there for 8 days?
Yes.
8 long days.
Yes.
And during this time, you know, I don't believe you didn't ever have to be on the ventilator, right? No.
The what?
The ventilator.
No, I didn't.
Thank goodness, yes. But I'm sure they were really worried, and they were trying to keep you hydrated and doing as much therapeutic as possible.
Yeah, I had IV and not penicillin, but oxygen, and that was at a high level when I went in, and it kept they kept being able to kind of lower that. So I think it was probably about 3 days that I felt really awful, and then it was like one day I'd feel pretty good, and the next day I'd feel kind of not so good again, and it was kind of going back and forth. But
you prevailed, and I'm sure, because a lot of the crux of our story is about faith, I'm sure that your faith, I don't know if you brought your rosary beads with you, I don't know if you just prayed a lot. What did you do to
well, I probably would have, but I didn't have anything with me. I didn't have my glasses or my phone or anything, but I had a lot of people praying for me also, and I was on the prayer chain here and in a lot, even different states, because I have a lot of relatives all over the place, and they were, you know, concerned and calling to find out how I was doing, and they were all praying, and I think that really helped me too.
I take it you did not have that nurse read you that the little prayer from the Virgin Mary, though.
I didn't get that one.
But it does sound like, you know, when you're kind of going, I would imagine, going in and out of consciousness and everything, did you feel the power of the Lord there just trying to guide you?
Yeah, I think that praying is something I really need to do, and I think we think of it a little bit more when we feel like we really need it than maybe taking him for granted part of the time. So
Absolutely. Have any lessons that coronavirus, being in the hospital, has taught you about your faith, and maybe made you stronger because of what you've had to see and experience?
Well, just how important it is, and I don't know what people would do without it, because you feel like if something's going to happen, I mean, if at first you almost hope it does because you feel so bad, and then you're not there anymore, and you're wanting to get better. So I don't know if it's taught me too much, but it's teaches me not to take things for granted. And I also think I've been probably praying for other people a lot more than I had been, because I do realize how important it is.
And you've seen how terrible this illness can be. I mean, it sounds like for you, both of you, and your experiences, like it knocked you down so quickly. One day you were just fine. The next day, it wasn't like a slow lingering thing where you might have, a sore throat, and then like a week later it takes you down. It sounds like this was pretty immediate with this. So it can really touch anyone. So
Yeah, at first you can't even walk or get out of bed by yourself or anything, and after a couple of days you feel like going to the bathroom by yourself is like going on a field trip or something. You really feel like you're doing something.
I know that feeling.
I'm sure you guys both feel that. Yeah, and now you're both back. You're living your lives. You have recovered, and yeah, your words of wisdom are to keep praying, because we're going to be in this for quite some time. And as we know from your stories, we have two parishioners that have never met, that have been here for the past 4 or 5 decades, right? That both
That's
have
weird.
this.
I know Connie.
I know my sister knows her very well.
That's funny. But you guys have never met. I just love that you guys were strangers, but then kind of realized that you both have done, but you have a shared experience for certain. Okay, I asked John this question. I'm going to make you answer it too, even though I hate to ask a lady. Can I get your age as well?
I'm 80.
80. Okay, gotcha. Wow.
They told me I was the oldest one on the floor at that time, and that I was doing the best. So I was really proud of that.
I think it was just your good attitude and your good nature and your faith that was helping with keeping you guys.
And I do exercise a lot. I go to the gym every day and walk, and
You stay healthy, and you're helping others stay healthy too, right? You're helping with the plasma project as well. Talk to me a little bit about that. I don't know if you're involved in any of the other studies like John is. He's got those 3 that he's working on.
No,
You might be picked for that.
not
soon
that
enough.
I know of. It's a little bit awkward for me to get into places, so I don't know if I would do that, but I plan to give the plasma every 28 days if I can find somebody to take me in there to the Red Cross.
Wonderful.
And they have the Girl Scout cookies.
Yeah.
That's the best part about giving.
That was a good part.
So I didn't know that. Maybe that's the new thing. I didn't realize, but that makes sense. Probably all the Girl Scouts, because they had such a lame year, they couldn't go out and sell. They probably did donate a bunch of them to the
Yeah.
Red Cross. I feel like that's another story I need to get on. That's pretty cute. Anyhow, that's for another day. Anything, Jane, that you think I've forgotten to ask about your story that you think would be important to share? With viewers as we continue to learn more, and we continue to try to stay as safe as possible, just knowing that there are wonderful people that have survived, is wonderful to get to put this face out there.
Well, I think it's really important to wear the masks, and I like to do all of those things, the gloves, and when I do go to the gym, I always wear my mask and gloves, and my family's still bringing in groceries, so I haven't been going to the store. I could, but I'm just lazy enough that I'm taking advantage of that. But maybe the biggest thing of all is that when you're feeling good, you really, I tend to take it for granted. I don't think about how thankful I am, of what good health I'm in. But then when you get sick, you think, oh my gosh, you just don't even think about it, and that's great to feel good. So I think just shouldn't take for granted that there's lots of people out there that would love to be as healthy as we are most of the time.
No doubt about it. Oh, I probably have plenty. Ellen, can you think of anything I forgot to ask guys?
No,
Anything
that's good.
that we should be bothering you about? Now's my